Welcome to The Middle. I'm Jeremy Hobson, along with our house DJ, Tolliver. And Tolliver, I'm going to start with a confession this hour, which is that until recently, I always misspelled the word tariff. I thought it was two R's and one F. But now that we have to talk about it all the time, I know that it is actually Tariff.
Wait, it's not a PH at the end?
You wish. You wish. So this hour, we want to take advantage of our amazing middle audience and find out how the tariffs are being felt so far across the country. And it might be a little hard to tell because prices may not have trickled down to the consumer yet. In fact, Walmart today said people will start seeing increases later this month. But also the Trump administration has gone after companies like Amazon that wanted to tell consumers how much the tariffs were impacting prices. So we don't know exactly. But one thing I want to say to listeners is, are you a business owner who's making business decisions because of the tariffs that you're already seeing? Or are you not a business owner, but you're being more cautious about what you're buying? Or maybe you don't want to quit that job that you hate because you have some uncertainty about the economy, or maybe you work in manufacturing and you're excited about the tariffs, or maybe you're a farmer. I definitely want to hear from a farmer this hour. In all those cases, you can call us at 844-4MIDDLE. That's 844-464-3353. So, Tolliver, let's just set the table, first of all, with what has happened.
Okay.
Help me out here. February 1st.
10% tariffs on everything from China, 25% on Canada and Mexico.
And February 3rd.
30-day pause on Canada and Mexico.
March 4th.
Okay, so make that 20% now on goods from China.
And March 6th.
Another 30-day pause on Canada and Mexico.
April 2nd.
You know, it's Liberation Day. 145% tariffs on China and increased tariffs on most other countries.
And also April 2nd.
90-day pause on the other countries after the bond market freaks out.
And finally, May 12th, Tolliver.
Okay, make that 30%, not 145% on most goods from China for 90 days. And listen, the day's not over yet. Okay?
Right,
We can have another one
exactly.
today.
Well, thank you, Tolliver, for that. And here's President Trump earlier this week talking about that 90-day trade truce with China.
In addition, yesterday we achieved a total reset with China after productive talks in Geneva. Both sides now agreed to reduce the tariffs imposed after April 2nd to 10% for 90 days as negotiators continue on the larger structural issues. And it doesn't include tariffs on cars, steel, aluminum, things such as that, or tariffs that may be imposed on pharmaceuticals, because we want to bring the pharmaceutical businesses back.
So maybe watch this space on that. But given all that, how are the tariffs affecting you? Tolliver, the phone number again, please.
Yeah, you can call us at 844-4MIDDLE. That's 844-464-3353. Or you can write to us at listentothemiddle.com. I'm checking all the emails, so send them in. You can also comment on our live stream on YouTube.
Well, joining me now, Rana Foroohar, associate editor and business columnist at the Financial Times. Rana, welcome to The Middle.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So before we get to the phones, with all that back and forth, Rana, that we just reenacted, are we in a different economy now than we were back in January? Is there substantial change at the end of the day?
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually talking to a Princeton historian today, and he was walking me through some of the biggest historical changes in the economy in the last 100 years, and he put this one right up there. It's there with World War I, it's there with the Great Depression. I mean, this is a rebalancing. I'm not saying that we've seen those kinds of results yet, but in terms of what Trump is trying to do, which is fundamentally overturn the Bretton Woods trading system and the Washington Consensus. That was the idea that America was kind of setting the rules of the road. Free trade was one of them. That's gone by the wayside. So 10% seems to be the new normal. We're going to see how that's going to trickle out, and it's going to happen at different rates in different industries in different parts of the country. But I don't think anybody could say that this isn't a pretty massive shift.
Are you seeing anything in the data yet? Are you seeing anything that shows you that consumers are feeling the tariffs already, or even uncertainty because of the tariffs?
Oh, yeah, for sure you are. I mean, consumer confidence is at multi-year lows. It hasn't been this low in quite some time. you have seen some price increases. I think, go look for a car these days, even a used car, and you'll see that prices have absolutely gone up. We've seen one-off items, certain kinds of agricultural items. Walmart has already started raising prices, for example, on things like electronics and toys, where you have a lot of components coming from China.
Hmm.
Um, other products, it's going to take a while to filter through. But one of the things that's also happening that's quite fascinating to me is companies are waking up, and as they kind of accept the reality of this, they're beginning to realize, oh gosh, we actually need that critical mineral from China that we can't access anymore, or that might be multiple times more expensive.
Hmm.
That component part that we thought was not a big deal is suddenly a big deal. Pharmaceuticals, I think you're going to start hearing about, particularly if we don't get a deal with India, because a lot of basic pharmaceuticals, generic pharmaceuticals, and inputs come from India. So imagine if we had, say, another big unusual viral outbreak right now and you needed certain kinds of medicine, and then suddenly the American public realizes, oh, wait a minute, we can't get those, and you're back in COVID all over again. So that's the kind of thing that I think is probably going to be rolling down the pike.
So square that with the stock market, which seems to have rebounded mostly from
Right.
what happened, right after Trump announced Liberation Day, and there was a huge collapse in the stock market, and it's kind of come back since then. Why are they not so concerned on Wall Street?
Well, a few reasons. Let's be clear, the stock market is not the best measure of the smart money. The smart money looks at the bond market, and the bond market is still saying blinking red. I mean, bond yields have gone down a little bit, which means investors are kind of, okay, let's see what happens here. We're not really, really upset, but we're waiting. But stock prices are up. That's because retail investors, who frankly aren't looking maybe as deeply as they should be at how permanent these changes are likely to be, are saying, oh, whew, we got to deal with China. Even though, let's be clear, this isn't a deal, this is a 90-day pause, after which there could be more volatility,
Right.
after which there could be higher rates. So the market goes up. If we hear something bad about tariffs tomorrow, the market's going to go down. I would not take that as any indication that things have fundamentally stabilized. In fact, I personally think we're going to be in probably for a couple of years of this, if not more.
Wow. That's really interesting. Let me bring in our other guest for the hour, Julie Niemann, who's a veteran financial analyst joining us from St. Louis. Julie, are you seeing any data right now? Are you seeing consumers behaving differently because of the tariffs that exist, even if they're down from what they were?
Well, it's more of a psychological thing. And yes, everybody's already changing. They've already started doing the first key thing, and that's basically starting to pull back and substitute. So they're giving up some of their favorite brands and starting to substitute. They're watching to see what's going to happen to it. But we've already seen the prices going up here. I don't know who's doing the surveying, but prices have been going up for several months now. Not dramatically. It's kind of like the slow boiling of water, and you don't know you're getting cooked. But that's exactly what's going on with this now. Slowly but surely, the prices are all going up. So we are seeing a lot of people also starting to stockpile the things that they get that have our imports. So everybody's alert to this, and they're doing something about it.
All right, let's get to a caller, Pam, who's calling from Highland Park, Illinois. Pam, welcome to the middle. Are you feeling the tariffs?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi there. How are you doing?
Great.
Good. My husband and I own a small bicycle shop in Winnetka, Illinois, so just close to where we live. And there is not one thing in our store that won't be affected or hasn't been affected by the tariff. We are receiving phone calls and emails every day from our.
Pam, you still there?
Oh no, I was so invested.
I want to
Yeah,
hear it.
yeah,
We'll get her
totally.
back.
But
Yeah.
Rana, that's interesting. I wonder if we're
Yeah.
going to hear a lot of that this hour.
Well, I hope so. And frankly, I love that this is a woman with a small business who's speaking out. I mean, you mentioned earlier how a number of companies, Amazon being one of them, have been squashed by the president when they try to say, "Hey, this is a thing. This is going to affect people." Surely he won't be able to get to every small and mid-sized business to do the same. And I think it's very brave for people to start talking about this. It is real.
Yeah. By the way, you said, Rana, that you believe that 10% is here to stay, that that's going to be the new normal for even years from now.
Yes, if you look historically, tariffs, once they go up, it takes decades for them to go down. And I think that that will be the case this time around. In part because, and we have certainly not seen the full blow of this, the rest of the world is pissed at us. I mean, they are really upset, and they are figuring out what their next moves are. And let me tell you, I bet we're not done with what China may do in terms of retribution, counteractions. Similarly, Europe is circling the wagons and realizing, okay, the U.S. is not going to defend us anymore. We're going to need to defend ourselves. We're going to start maybe unifying more as a trading bloc ourselves and as an economic bloc. They're in talks with countries like Canada that have been snubbed by the president, and so
Yeah.
all that may end up having an impact that we'll feel down the line as well.
Well, stand by. Tolliver, I have very good news for you, which is Pam is back, and we're going to go to her right after the break so we can hear
Hell
exactly
yay.
what's going on there in Highland Park. But I said I can spell tariff now. That's in part because we just did a show a few weeks ago with former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers on this topic.
Yeah, and you asked him what advice he'd give to Trump if he were working in the White House right now. And on the issue of tariffs, here's what he said.
You need to end this. You need to have there be a stable, non-protectionist regime that's not pushing American prices way up, that's not hurting the competitiveness of businesses who can't get inputs. And you need to show people that you recognize and have learned the lessons of the very painful experience of the last 2 weeks.
Maybe Trump was listening to The Middle, Tolliver. By the way, you can hear that entire episode with Larry Summers on our podcast in partnership with iHeart Podcasts on the iHeart app or wherever you listen to podcasts. Tolliver, what are we listening to here?
This is Trump's favorite, Bob Seger with Busload of Faith. It's a cover of a Lou Reed song. So Bob Seger's a huge critic of the Trump administration. He's also from Detroit, the Motor City, so I'm sure he has no opinion on the tariffs this year. Keep it locked. More of The Middle coming up.
This is The Middle. I'm Jeremy Hobson. If you're just tuning in, The Middle is a national call-in show. We're focused on elevating voices from the middle, geographically, politically, and philosophically, or maybe you just want to meet in the middle. This hour, we're asking you how the tariffs are affecting you. Tolliver, what is the number to call in?
It's 8444-MIDDLE. That's 844-464-3353. You can also write to us at listentothemiddle.com. I'm checking all your emails or on social media, checking all that. So reach out.
And I'm joined by Financial Times business columnist and associate editor Rana Foroohar and financial analyst Juli Niemann. And let's go back to Pam in Highland Park, Illinois. Pam, sorry we lost you there for a second, but you were about to say that you're seeing the tariffs impact just about everything in your store.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was saying that we're getting emails and calls every day from our suppliers talking about what the potential impacts are going to be. They are registering the uncertainty. We've actually had one supplier already close their doors. So, we're seeing this day to day. And we have, then we try to talk with our customers about what it's going to be like because they ask. And the short answer is we don't really know. We have one supplier that has already decided not to import the smallest children's bikes because they don't think that they can justify the cost. And it is a primary large bicycle manufacturer. They are the largest bicycle manufacturer in the world, and they will not be importing 12 and 16-inch children's bikes anymore.
So would
to the
you
United
say
States.
then, Pam, that really what you're seeing is a supply issue? It's hard to get the things. What about the prices being passed down to the consumers?
That is also going to happen. So what we're hearing now from our suppliers is, yes, some things are going to be harder to get because they have to make strategic decisions about what they think they can get through and what is going to provide the best opportunity for sale on a day-to-day basis. But all of those suppliers are also saying we're going to have to pass these costs along to our buyers and our consumers. So those costs are going to pass on to us, and then we have to pass them on to the consumer as well.
And do you register your unhappiness with this with your representatives? Are you letting people in Washington know how you feel about these tariffs?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, we have a member of Congress who's one of our customers. So we talk regularly.
Yeah.
and,
All right.
And he is equally frustrated. There's only so much that can be done. A lot of this has to do, though, with the uncertainty and the fact that we aren't really certain at this point if the tariffs are actually a strategic long-term issue or if they are, in fact, simply a whipsaw of chaos.
Yeah.
And the big differential for everybody in that is that if they are a long-term strategic issue, first of all, it's way too broadcast. There are good ways to make strategic decisions about tariffs.
Yeah.
This is not it.
Yeah.
But
Pam,
if it's a long-term...
We've got it there.
I'm
Let
sorry.
me go to our guest. No, I really appreciate your call. But on the issue of the ultimate goal here, Rana Foroohar, we've heard that the Trump administration is doing this because they want to stop fentanyl from coming into the country. Although then you would wonder, why is the tariff the same? Why was it originally the same on Canada as on Mexico? That this is about bringing manufacturing jobs back to the United States. But if that's the case, why drop the tariff back down to a lower level after some trouble in the bond market? Do you see an overall goal here?
So I've got a couple answers to that. Let me, if I can just do a historical speed round, because I think it would help. Trump 1 comes in, and Trump 1, Trump got in politically, and I'm from the middle. I'm from Indiana. My county went from, Clinton County, 75% Trump. He talked the right talk about manufacturing jobs and about workers in places that have been hollowed out. The China shock is real. A lot of communities, I grew up in one, have really been hit hard. When he came into office, you then saw Bob Lighthizer, the USTR at the time, who I really have a lot of respect for, had put very surgical tariffs on China on particular kinds of goods. That, I think, was a good idea, because it is true that the Chinese have very mercantilist practices, and a lot of countries would agree with this. Biden then comes in and says, all right, that's the away game, but we need a home game too. And we have to build a chips industry, build a clean energy industry, and support businesses here. Now you've got Trump too. And there is a kind of a grand plan that's been articulated by Steve Mirren, who's the head of the Council of Economic Advisors, to say, look, we got to rebalance the global economy as a whole. The US dollar is making goods too expensive coming out of the US into other countries. It means that we lose manufacturing jobs. I think there's something to that, but you have to thread that needle carefully. You have to work with allies, which is what Biden was trying to do, cutting new deals with Europeans, reaching out to the Canadians. Trump comes in and puts tariffs on adversaries and allies alike, and people don't know what to think. And we've lost trust. So I'm concerned about how that's going to play out.
Yeah. Let's go to Kenneth, who's in Asheville, North Carolina. Kenneth, welcome to the middle. Go ahead.
Yes, hello. I'm in Asheville, North Carolina, and where my family and I are still displaced from Helene. Went through the whole FEMA experience, and then I lost my job in December. Ironically, I worked for a nonprofit trying to allocate emergency funds. And so when the tariffs happened and all of them were announced, we were still kind of in emergency mode. We just bought our generator after the storm and all this stuff. So we were ready to go out and buy a bunch of stuff we thought the prices would shoot up on. And then all the tariffs got taken out or, shifted and moved around. And I just felt like it was a bait and switch. And I felt like, I feel like they're trying to scare me into buying a bunch of stuff that the prices probably will go up on. But I'm unemployed, not having gotten much from FEMA, still in a disaster zone as far as I'm concerned. Am I really going to pour my money into this stuff, even if I know the prices are going to go up? Because there's it's not a great time to go on credit,
Right. Yeah, Kenneth, I really appreciate your call and best of luck with that. Julie Niemann, that is so interesting to hear just an individual who says, I'm going to go out and buy things now because they might go up in price and then gets angry when they don't because the tariffs get taken away.
Well, he and everybody is the victim of total chaos in that three-ring circus in Washington, D.C. Nobody knows how things work or what the implications or the fallout is. And when you start firing the people who know how things work, then the entire agency goes into chaos. So there's not one single agency that can give guidance. You don't have any kind of plan or forecast at this point. CEOs are giving up on it. It's just total chaos. The market, on the other hand, is paying no attention to that. They're looking for just the little signals here and there. It's a trading market. Blow it off. Pay no attention to the stock market. It is wrecking total chaos with the economy, though. Will it be a recession? That's really hard to see at this point, but if it goes on much longer, yes, there will be.
Julie, you're in St. Louis. You don't have to drive very far to find farmers who make a lot of money selling things like soybeans to China. China put a 125% tariff on imports from the U.S. in response to the U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods, which they have since reduced. But are you hearing from farmers, or what are you supposed to do if you're a farmer right now?
Well, they've gotten the big assurance from Trump that he's going to get money out to them to compensate them for the big tariff that's coming in. Now, that isn't government money. That's money the taxpayers are providing. So we're going to be providing money on a tariff that never should have been put on. For one thing, you don't put tariffs on food. That is the most ridiculous thing in the world. You do it in strategic equipment, certain key things in trade, not on food. And that's where a lot of this is going and what's going to cause even more problems here. But if the farmers do get those nice paychecks to cushion it, it's coming directly from the taxpayers, and we're paying for it. So we're continuing to pay for their screw-ups.
Tolliver, I know some comments are coming in online.
Yeah, we actually just got one a second ago. This is Larissa. She says, I work in pharmacy. I wonder how many people understand that medicines are largely imported. Pharmaceuticals are supposedly exempt from tariffs, but I'm holding my breath. As so many people are saying, it's the uncertainties that are making me lose sleep. There's some other ones, but I got to tell you, they're pretty vitriolic. I can read one for fun.
All right,
if you'd like.
All right, well, we'll keep it G-rated for now. Let's go to Scott, who's in Houston, Texas. Hi, Scott. Go ahead with your thoughts about the tariffs. Are you being affected by them?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I feel kind of like we're all just sitting here waiting. It's one day it's up, one day it's down, whether that's the market, whether that's, we're going to have tariffs, yes, or no, we're not. But I know for us, we're a family business. We're super lucky to have had the following we've had in Houston for 25 years. But I mean, we're still feeling the effects of what COVID brought, honestly. And, prices of goods from 2020 to where we are now, you pick any product that we use, dairy, proteins, which, by the way, if you eat lamb in pretty much any restaurant in the United States or really anywhere in the world, that's coming from New Zealand or Australia.
Right.
So there you go, right there. And, I mean, that's gone up and upwards of 50% just for, lamb chops, right? So, it's...
And have you passed those costs on to consumers?
So that's an interesting point I wanted to bring up. No, I mean, we have now, our menu prices since 2020, we have jumped 15%. And the biggest jump came about 22 or 23, where we're just kind of sitting around looking like, okay, we've opened back up, but I can't get anything. Costs of goods are gone up. So it was like everybody's trying to get the same container to pack food to go, because that was still a majority of our business at the time. Hurricanes come through and rip out like factories in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and then suddenly like plastics or other, products that would go for making these containers aren't even available. Forget the fact that we're in a worldwide pandemic or trying to come out of it at a time. So there's just so much going on, and it's just stacking on it's just one thing after the other,
Yeah.
And
Scott,
I mean, we go ahead.
Well, no, it's a great point, and I want to ask Rana Foroohar about that. When you hear Scott talk about prices going up for him and just coming out of the pandemic, but then not passing some on to the consumers, is that surprising?
Not really. I mean, I think businesses of all sizes have been trying to eat as much as they can, frankly, of this because, they want to keep their customers happy. They don't want to lose business. They don't want to see people buttoning up their wallets. I was concerned, though, just recently to hear the CEO of Walmart say, you know what? We're just going to have to pass these costs on. They're too big, they're too broad. And when Walmart can't eat costs, you know that others are going to have a hard time eventually.
Well, I mean, I guess on the other hand, Walmart is so big that they may, in many places, not have any real competitors except for maybe Amazon. So they don't have to think about things like a restaurant would, where, they might have another restaurant down the street that people say, oh, this one's getting too expensive, I'll go to that one instead. Walmart is in a sort of a category of its own.
Well, 100%, but you're kind of proving my point that, if they feel under pressure about this, that those that are, in smaller and mid-sized businesses, which, by the way, every economist I know says SMEs, small, mid-sized businesses, family businesses, local shops, they're going to be hit much harder by this. And this was also the case in COVID, I will say. When COVID hit, you saw the biggest retailers, Amazon, Target, Walmart, those folks were able to use their size and scale to, get faster container cargo shipping. They were able to cut deals. It's much, much harder when you don't have that kind of size and scale to cope in an environment like this.
Let's go to Margaret, who's in Wilmington, Delaware. Hi, Margaret. How are you feeling the tariffs?
Hi. Hello to everyone. Couple of observations. I have been trying to get an electric blanket, twin size, for several months. And I was following Amazon. And when tariffs were announced, they're just gone. I guess everyone went and bought because they're thinking, well, come next winter, they're going to be twice as much. So I haven't been able to get any of the ones that I was looking for. Walmart did have some on their website, but they're all undesirable colors. So the item that I was looking for, okay, if I want dark gray or some other weird color, yes, Walmart has undesirable. But what I was looking for on Amazon that was the best price, it's gone. I ended up buying a different size because I'd rather have one than none at all, right?
Yeah.
You're seeing that, if I could just jump in, because you're seeing this in so many categories. You're seeing it in clothing, you're seeing it in cars, and it's actually this is a classic inflationary spiral because people see it is going to be more expensive most likely next year. And so you get ahead of it, you hoard. That causes shortages, which then cause inflation.
Margaret, thank you very much.
I'm sorry about that, but I also have, we open an occasional good bottle of champagne when it's somebody's birthday, and that's going to go up really much.
Absolutely.
Too. So we are concerned,
Yeah.
It's very difficult. It's
just,
difficult.
I mean, I don't want to offend any of our listeners, maybe in the winemaking industry in California, but it's just not the same. I once did a story about champagne versus Prosecco versus sparkling wine, and it's just not the same. There's a reason you pay so much for the real thing. Let's get another caller in before the break here. Pam is in Malvern, Pennsylvania. Pam, how are you feeling the tariffs?
I'm not yet, but I was doing some research myself today on the internet, and I wondered where the tariffs that are collected go. Where does that money go? And what I read was that it goes to the United States Treasury. And I believe I also read that at that point, the administration can do whatever it pleases with the money. So
interesting. Because Pam, we heard that I think last month the Trump administration says they brought in $16 billion from the tariff in customs collections because of the tariffs. Julie, do you know anything about the money that comes in, or do you think that that's a benefit of the tariffs?
Oh, that's a direct cause. This is why they want it, because that money is going to pay for renewal of all the tax bill that's going through that benefits the top 1%. And so that will be that's where the big benefits are. So the tariffs are going to pay for us to continue on with the tax bill that is currently being pushed to Congress, which only benefits top income earners. So that's
Rana,
quite correct.
Rana, does the administration can they do whatever they want with that money?
Pretty much, and that's correct. That it is part of what they're hoping is going to offset this tax bill, which the markets are not buying it. People are very, very worried about the debt and deficit levels that the tax bill is going to cause.
Yeah. Well, Tolliver, we've been hearing from ordinary Americans this hour, but Trump's trade war has elicited reactions from some of the most important people in business and politics.
That's an understatement, man. Here's Chinese President Xi Jinping, Massachusetts steel manufacturer Stephen Capone, J.P. Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon, and Berkshire Hathaway CEO Warren Buffett.
Trade should not be a weapon. It's a big mistake in my view.
The tariffs sound stiff. It's a tall task, but we need to do something to lower costs for our companies, for our workers.
I thought it was too large, too big, and too aggressive when it started. But it's okay to say if it's unfair, we want to fix it.
And China's President Xi Jinping is now responding to President Trump for the first time.
5-9.
Saying that China does not fear economic suppression, but adding there are no winners in a tariff war.
NBC's Peter Alexander there playing the role of Xi Jinping. Tolliver, what are we listening to here?
Okay, so this is Charles Bradley with Why Is It So Hard? So Charles Bradley actually didn't become popular until he was 61 years old, which is ironically the year I'll be able to afford a house. Good calls coming up on The Middle.
This is The Middle. I'm Jeremy Hobson, and this hour we're asking you how the tariffs are affecting you. You can call us at 844-4MIDDLE. That's 844-464-3353, or you can reach out at listentothemiddle.com. My guests are financial analyst Juli Niemann and Financial Times business columnist and associate editor Rana Foroohar. Such great calls. Let's get back to the phones. Mike is in Lake Forest, Illinois. Hi, Mike. How are the tariffs affecting you?
Well, they're destroying my business. I'm kind of a solo entrepreneur. I import mosquito net tents for summer camps. And I take my orders and negotiate pricing in December, produce the product in the spring, and it all sells during the summer. So if I don't get in by June or May, I don't sell anything. And the tariffs were zero on my product originally. And then when I had to pay for the shipping, it went to $145. And it's funny now, I kind of wish I was paying only 80%.
Yeah, by comparison. What are you going to do? Are you going to be able to stay in business?
I'm just going to have to eat the cost. I can't change the prices with my buyers. And I do sell some on Amazon, but I'm going to wait and see what my competitors do before I raise prices.
Mike, what do you make of the fact that the stock market seems to have rebounded from where it was? Do you think that they're just crazy on Wall Street?
I don't think the stock market is a very good indicator of what's going on. People are just reacting day to day. They're getting the money out and then putting it back in and getting it back out and putting it back in because nobody else to put it.
Yeah. Mike, thank you very much for that call. Rana, what do you think of that? Another business owner who is having to eat the costs of these tariffs and really scared about the future.
Well, I think two things. I mean, for starters, what an interesting product, mosquito nets. Nobody thought that was going to get cut off or caught up in this hoo-ha. And I'm hearing from people all the time with these kinds of problems. Just, I really think this pharmaceutical input issue is going to become very important. A lot of what goes in antibiotics comes from India. There are rare minerals, but there are also things like mosquito nets, practical things that, you just don't think about that are part of this. I will also say that I agree with the caller about the idea that people are putting their money in and out of the market. They're trying to time these dips. It's chaos. It's wreaking havoc with people's financial planning for their retirement, which is another side effect here.
I'm going to do a tale of two callers from Dallas right now. And John, we'll start with John, who's in Dallas. John, how are you feeling the tariffs, or are you feeling them?
Well, not feeling them immediately, but I had a manufacturing business, plastic molding business, which I've sold, but I still work there as a consultant. And we worked generally with older machines, but those are gradually getting to the point where they'll need replacement. And unfortunately, all the machinery now comes from China. So it would be hard for us to gear up production at our little factory because the machinery already was pretty much well out of reach to get new machinery. And now with the tariffs, it's going to make it very hard to increase any manufacturing at our little plant.
And does that have an effect on jobs?
Well, yes. It'll, you can't hire more people to do the work if you don't have the machinery to make the parts, and it's fairly labor-intensive work. So it's not the best jobs. They're not the highest paying and the most glamorous, but it is work for entry-level people, and we're not going to be able to supply that if we can't afford the machinery to ramp up and make more parts.
Okay, John, that's John in Dallas. Now let's go to Eric in Dallas. Eric, what are you feeling when it comes to the tariffs?
I all of our everything comes from probably sourced from outside. I don't know where all the products are made. I know some products are made in the U.S., but they come in containers. And
What is it that you do, Eric? What's your business?
I'm a hairstylist. So good luck when you go to get your hair done, because it's going to go up. But most of the stylists in Texas are independent contractors. They work sole proprietors. So they don't have an umbrella over them. They have to carry the cost all on their own backs. And so a pair of shears that we got in Japan, that the cheapest pair that you can find would probably be around $1,000. China's gotten some substitutions that were as good a quality, but not quite as good, but for remarkably less. Now that's going to go out the window. So those tools that we rely on to make our money are going away. And I am a disabled 57-year-old. I have student loan debt, and I've been disabled for 15 years. So I'm under the poverty line. So I can't even, on top of that, I'm getting double punched. So it's ridiculous.
Yeah, Eric, I really appreciate your call. Yeah, I appreciate your call. Juli Niemann, such interesting perspectives from two different people and two very different businesses in Dallas.
Yes, it is, but it's a situation where, of course, small businesses are going to be the ones who suffer because they don't have the wherewithal to stay in business for a long period of time. They were talking earlier about not being able to get the things that they requested. Shipping is going to be the biggest problem. They're redirecting all their shipping to taking care to ship to other places. So there's a shortage of shipping coming into the United States now, and the costs have gone way up on shipping. So because of this, we're going to have delays, late deliveries, and then let's talk about Christmas here and toys. We're really going to have a big problem with toys. But then again, Trump said you don't need $30; you only need $3.
Right. But,
let them eat.
But Rana, when you hear that, you think about the dolls and what the focus has been on in the media on the tariffs, and we hear these perspectives from a person in a barber shop, from a person who's selling mosquito nets. This is so much more far-reaching than what has been talked about so far.
Well, I'm so glad to be a part of this conversation and hear these examples. It's so much richer and more important in a lot of ways, because it's showing the depth and the breadth of what's going to happen. And by the way, the point about ships, completely true. That actually happens to be the topic of my next book that I just sold a couple of weeks ago. It's about shipping. China has 5,500 ocean-going vessels. The U.S. has 185. So if the Chinese want to put the squeeze on ships at a global level, they absolutely can.
Let's get to Debbie, who's in Manchester, Tennessee. Debbie, how are you feeling the tariffs?
Hi, Jeremy. Well, I just come from a consumer perspective. I've noticed some prices going up, but I don't know if those were directly because of tariffs right now. But my main question that I'm calling about is if the guests have any insight on insurance premiums. I've had a conversation with someone today who said their homeowner's policy went up to $5,000 for a year on a home that's worth less than $100,000.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I just didn't know if that was something to consider going.
I think I'm correct in saying that they are going up, but not because of the tariffs. In this case, we can't blame that. Is that right, Rana? We can't blame the tariffs for the homeowners
It's
policy.
true. They are going up. They've gone up in the last 2 years across the board. In some, I don't know which state you're calling from. I apologize.
Tennessee.
Tennessee. Oh, well, actually, yes, they in the South. Tennessee has got flooding issues, and that's one of the things that's raising premiums there. Of course, Florida has become almost uninsurable. New York, we're having problems. I actually had to cancel our policy and get a catastrophic policy because we couldn't afford it anymore because we're in a flood zone in Brooklyn. So this is a national problem.
Yeah. Let's go to Autumn, who's in Gainesville, Florida. Autumn, how are you feeling the tariffs?
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about how Trump's tariff policies have impacted plant science research. These tariffs didn't just hit farmers, they have disrupted the supply chain for essential materials and equipment used in agricultural research. Prices like lab instruments, grow chambers, greenhouse materials, DNA sequencing, even fertilizers has increased due to the tariffs. A lot of people don't think about that side as well. Not just the farmers, but the researchers are also getting impacted, as well as collaboration. International collaboration has been affected by it as well.
And you're in Gainesville, where the University of Florida is. Have you been unable to do research because of this?
I've heard of other researchers having complications, especially with other researchers in China and Canada.
Yeah, because there's a lot of collaboration.
There is, and it's really sad to see this happen because any type of research that's happening with plant science is essentially us figuring out ways how to feed the world. So,
yeah. Well, Autumn, very interesting. Thank you for calling. And I'm going to do Keenan, who's in Salt Lake City. Keenan, how are you feeling the tariffs?
So there's a cottage industry in information security, cybersecurity conferences of making tiny electronic batches. So this is basically a circuit board, maybe a few centimeters on a side, a few LEDs, a resistor, maybe a microcontroller. And of course, all of these things are sourced from China. So a bunch of these conferences normally have a big trading culture of there will be probably 100 different people who have made their own badge, brought it to this culture. And so far, 70% of those people this year or more, people who didn't source it before the tariffs, they're out of the industry right now. And these would sell for maybe $5, often at a loss, and they're gone now.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Juli Niemann, I imagine that throughout your career, you've been to a lot of conferences. I mean, this is something I never even thought of that comes in from China, but interesting point there.
Well, so many electronic components and everything we're using come in from China. I'm sitting here with my Apple computer, so you can't get much more straightforward on that. Everything has Chinese components in it. And all they have to do is stop shipping to us, and let's see what happens when we try to con.
Rana,
it's not going to work.
One of the big issues here is that the U.S. has traditionally been the safe harbor when times get tough economically. People flock to the securities, the U.S. treasuries, the safety of those. We're seen as up and up as a trading partner. Is that still the case?
Well, it's more the case in some ways than it should be. And let me explain. I mean, countries that have the kind of debt and deficit pictures that the US does and the kind of political volatility that we have right now would typically be seeing a much weaker economy, would be seeing much higher borrowing costs, interest rates would be higher. But because the US dollar is the currency of last resort for the world, we get it's, as they say, the exorbitant burden, exorbitant privilege. The Trump administration is focused more on the burden part. It does make American goods more expensive, and that's one of the reasons that you have this tariff paradigm. But there's another thing happening here, which is the rest of the world, China in particular, wants to move away from the US dollar. And in fact, the Chinese and Russians and a number of other central banks around the world and the Arab world have been stockpiling gold really since before COVID. They want to start doing more trade in their own currencies or in digital currencies, digital RMB, or in gold. They want to move away from the dollar, and I think eventually that will weaken the dollar and potentially lower U.S. asset prices. It's a tough needle to thread. Right now, the Trump administration is trying to have it both ways. They want to do this reshoring. They want to bolster manufacturing, but they also want the U.S. dollar to be the place of last resort. May not be able to have it both ways.
Levi is in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Levi, how are the tariffs affecting you?
I have a manufacturing company to make specialty hinges for be able to hinge like bookcases and things of that nature. And I was just in the early stages of my company doing prototyping back and forth with China and getting the parts. And I don't disagree with the tariffs in principle. I more disagree with how they were rolled out, how chaotic everything is. And it's basically priced me out of the market. So I've got $25,000 into this, startup company that I'm basically just going to take a loss on at this point because there's no way without manufacturing them in China that I will be able to make them at a price that people can afford.
But you still believe in the tariffs in principle?
I believe in some of the tariffs in principle. I don't believe in putting 145% tariffs on probably anybody, but I think that if you were to do this in a slow way to try to balance the markets in a reasonable way where you let people know what's going so they have time to prepare and they have time to build up manufacturing here in the United States, I see that it could benefit us in some ways. Putting, tariffs on islands that don't have any human inhabitants and things of that nature, I don't see any sense in that.
There was an island that had no inhabitants. Thank you, Levi. Tolliver, I don't think we've ever had so many calls in the hour before, but this is just so much fun to go to these different people and hear what's going on with the tariffs. I'm going to do one more. Phyllis in Western Arizona. Phyllis, quickly tell us how the tariffs are affecting you.
Hi. Well, I'm definitely in the middle, and I work for a small business, jewelry, custom jewelry operation. The tariffs and combined with the rise in gold, I should say the ups and downs of gold, have created quite a conundrum within the industry, and not just for our business, but for many of the other jewelers across the country. And we talk to different people all the time. Just for an example, this time last year, 2 gold chains would run us maybe $400 and shipping. Now it's $750 plus a $60 tariff plus tax plus shipping.
Wow.
And and so because we advertise buying gold at the daily rate, what we had was more people coming in to sell their old gold than to buy merchandise. And so, we've been in the ditch for almost 3 months now. It's really bad.
That's amazing. It reminds me actually of like what was happening when car prices were really high, and then people all of a sudden were able to sell their used cars at a much higher price because they wanted that. We are running out of time here. I just want to ask each of our guests, and I'll start with you, Rana, just a quick prediction about the economy for the rest of this year based on what you know about these tariffs.
Well, I'm going to be watching the summer very carefully. That's going to be the tell. Are we going to slip into a recession? Is the inflationary pressure going to be too much to bear? I would not be surprised if we saw a slowdown by fall.
Yeah. Rana, thank you very much. And
Thank
Juli
you.
Niemann, let me ask you for your prediction, 30 seconds. What do you think is going to happen in the economy the rest of this year?
Well, because the inflation we see is due to tariffs, we're not going to be seeing any cut in interest rates for the time being. That will be holding up, even though underlying inflation is going down. We're also going to be seeing, just from a chaos standpoint, no activity on anybody's part. You're not going to see companies expanding. They're going to be terminating a lot of plans for expansion.
Yeah.
I see a recession coming.
Wow. That is financial analyst Juli Niemann, and we've been speaking also with Financial Times business columnist and associate editor Rana Foroohar. Thanks so much to both of our guests. And don't forget, The Middle is available as a podcast in partnership with iHeart Podcasts on the iHeart app or wherever you listen to podcasts. Coming to your feed in the next few days, an episode of our weekly podcast extra, One Thing Trump Did. We're going to be asking what Doge is doing with all of our data. And next week, we'll be right back here asking, if not DEI, then what can be done to ensure everyone has equal opportunity?
I'm excited for that one. As always, you can call in at 8444-MIDDLE. That's 844-464-3353. Or you can reach out at listentothemiddle.com, where you can also sign up for our free weekly newsletter and support us with a tax-deductible donation.
The Middle is brought to you by Long Neck Media, distributed by Illinois Public Media in Urbana, Illinois, and produced by Harrison Patino, Danny Alexander, Sam Burmistaz, John Barth, Annika Deschler, and Brandon Kondritz. I'm Jeremy Hobson. I will talk to you next week.